Bob, General Durbin, thank you very much for that very kind and overly generous introduction. And again, thank you for your great service to our country of 36 years in the military. And thank you for your company doing such good work in the state of Iowa, too, I might add. And I had Juliet Rizzo down here, and I just wrote one word after her name, wow. She's kind of a wow person, don't you think, that Juliet Rizzo? She's great. And I want to thank everyone at Easter Seals for this wonderful honor. I am delighted to be here with my good friend Steve Bartlett, who played such a key role in passing the Americans with Disabilities Act back in 1990. And I might add also, even though he was out of Congress, helped play a very key background role, and sometimes those background roles can mean the difference between success and failure, but played a key background role in passing the ADA Act amendments of 2008. And so he's been at this a long time, and I'm just delighted to see that he continues to support the disability community through his leadership at Easter Seals and other organizations. And to Doug Todd, our other co-chair this evening from Siemens, I'm sitting next to Doug. He said he picked the menu out for tonight. I thought it was a pretty good menu. I thought the meal was pretty good. So let's have an applause for Doug for picking out the menu. And also I want to thank you for the work that your company does in my state of Iowa, too. To Chairman Phil Panzarella, thank you for your selfless devotion to the Easter Seals of this area, and of course to your President and CEO, Lisa Reeves. I'm also happy to be here with Katie Bay-Neese, who was one of my key staffers on the ADA and is such a great national advocate for children with disabilities in her current role as leader of the National Easter Seals Public Policy Office here in Washington. In other words, Katie used to work for me, and now I work for her. I also want to introduce Andy Imperato. Was also with us at that time, left, and then became the founder and president and CEO of the American Association of People with Disabilities. And then he headed that for a long time, and then just a year ago or so, left that and came back and is now back on our committee and heads our disability policy section of my health committee. But Andy Imperato, who's done also so much work over all these years. I also want to commend my co-honoree, Chris Smith, for his tremendous leadership on autism issues as the chair of the House Autism Caucus, and for being here to support this great organization. Friends, as Bob noted in his introduction, I have been working on improving lives and outcomes for children and adults with disabilities for most of my adult life. It's been a labor of love, and as he said, it was inspired by my brother Frank, who was told at a young age when he was in school that he could only do three things. He could be a baker, he could be a shoe cobbler, or a printer's assistant, and he had to pick one of those. And he didn't want to do any one of those. And as it turns out, he fought for a life of independence for himself, and he was able to live a full and rich life and to overcome a lot of the barriers that was put in his way. And he kind of instilled in me sort of that desire to take his example and see what I could do on a broader reach. Easter Seals has been an important part of all of the work that I have been involved in my adult life in working for people with disabilities and giving them greater opportunities. Their work here in the greater Washington-Baltimore region is helping to realize the vision of the laws like ADA and IDEA and the Rehab Act. You're promoting policies that help children and families get the supports and services they need to thrive, and to help adults with disabilities to participate in the workplace, and making our transportation infrastructure and our built environment more accessible. And of course, very importantly, to help change public attitudes about disability across the age span. As we come to close to the 22nd anniversary this July of the signing of the ADA, we know that we still have some work cut out for us. I just want to focus for a couple of minutes on one of those. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 31% of working-age people with disabilities are in the labor force. And the total size of the disability labor force has declined by over 500,000 workers in the last 3 years. In other words, for every one person that lost his or her job in the recent recession, there were at least 3 people with disabilities who lost their job. That decline during that same period means that when we start rebuilding our work base in this country and business starts to come back, we've got to make sure that people with disabilities are not left behind, that they are fully integrated with that workforce. One of the best ways that we can in the future ensure that people with disabilities are able to enter that workforce is exactly what you're doing here in the greater Washington-Baltimore area, and that is focusing on preschool. I commend you for your focus on the first 5. That is the most critical time in any child's life, but especially in the life of a child with a disability. So I just close by saying that even though our country has led the world in establishing civil rights protections for people with disabilities, requiring improvements in accessibility, we still have a long way to go before we truly realize the 4 goals of the ADA: equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. But thanks to the work of the Easter SEALs here in the greater Washington-Baltimore area and the work that Easter SEALs does in my state of Iowa and Katy around the country, we'll realize those goals more quickly. Again, your tireless advocacy promoting inclusive preschools, inclusive K-12 education, inclusive higher education and workplaces, inclusive transportation, and inclusive communities is just incredibly important. It makes a real difference, and I salute you for it. I thank you for your leadership, and I just want to give you another little item of good news. I told Steve this earlier. The President today sent down to the Senate for its advice and consent the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We need, thank you. Now we need all your help in getting the 2/3 vote in the Senate that we need for ratification. We have been the leader in the world on disability policy issues, and I want to make sure that we maintain that leadership. So I thank you all in Easter SEALs for being a powerful partner as we help America live up to its promise to be a country that, as I've always said, creates a ladder or ramp of opportunity for all of our citizens. Thank you very much.